Mr. Kennedy. Hi.
Hello.
So it sounds like you guys are still standing behind this bill, $614,000.
We're just standing behind the facts as we know them. Certainly we're trying to find a reasonable way to adjust for these unexplained situations. So,
what about the accountability here? The commissioners are talking about holding people accountable within your department. No one has stepped up and said, "Hey, we messed up."
Well, I don't think we messed up, and I guess the accountability goes to me. But we had that meter checked. It accurately records flows at those rates. There was nothing wrong with the registers or anything else. So that's the facts that we have to rely upon.
What about your guys turning meters off, turning the alarms off?
That has to do with the drive-by reading equipment, the laptop computer. Has nothing to do with physically reading the meters. We don't physically stop and look at the meters.
But aren't those alarms there to warn you when something's going on?
As Craig explained, there are a series of alarms, but we do not stop for every particular alarm. If we get a zero read alarm, then we do stop to get that, because it's important that we gather that data and take it back to upload it into the billing systems.
But if you had the alarms on, wouldn't you have caught this and all the other
We
big
don't
ones?
stop at every one that has a high alarm rate. It's different than when we used to walk by and physically look at the meters. The meter reading equipment has improved the accuracy and reliability of gathering the meter reading data. So it's a different process over what we used to do. I think what we need to do is improve the customer follow-up and customer care, that once we get that data back to the system, that we immediately take action to put the customer on notice that we've detected a high water use reading. And that's what we're trying to do.
But you said you don't think that you messed up. But what about this IG audit that clearly says you did?
I don't read that into the audit. The audit basically said the meter and meter readings are accurate.
Missing reads, overbilling, not a problem?
We had billing errors related to misreads and so forth, but we're addressing those as recommended by the IG's report.
Do you need more staff?
So what are you willing to do now? I mean, many of the commissioners wanted to zero it out.
We're trying to find an appropriate way to adjust for these unexplained situations. Many utilities will do a 50% reduction, or they rely upon something like we're doing, which is to go back to the wholesale rate that we pay Tampa Bay Water.
Why adjust at all if you don't think you did anything wrong?
We're trying to be reasonable because they have an unexplained and unintended situation that's arisen.
This has been going on for a year, though. Why not be reasonable way back when?
Please understand that the agreement with the IG when this started is that they set up the website for people to call and contact them. And in turn, those people that contacted us, the agreement was that we would put and hold in abeyance that bill until we got their results, which we just got last month, and as we work through and look at those and come up with a proper way to do the adjustment, which was what was recommended by the IG.
Okay. Will there be any change to those alarms being turned off?
It's not so much that as I think the customer care follow-up that we can do as a result of knowing about that. And that's functionality in a new billing system that we never had before. And that's what we need to focus on.
So if you get this ordinance changed, what will you be able to do for the Gritmans?
Well, I think we can legally apply an appropriate adjustment.
What's appropriate?
Based upon what they ultimately put in their ordinance, which in this case, we've talked about using the same criteria or method that we currently do for a verifiable leak, which is to reduce that back to and adjust the bill based upon the wholesale rate that we pay Tampa Bay Water.
So we're still talking $1,600.
That's the round numbers that we've come up if we applied the adjustment, yes.
So if the commissioners, many of them, wanted it to be zero, you think $1,600 is good?
I don't think. If they choose to go to another option or another possibility, then I think we'll address that in the ordinance process.
And it's not just this one bill. We've heard from hundreds of people that are upset. What are you doing to fix those?
each and every person that would call in and complain, and we will take a look at whatever their issue is and evaluate their situation.
Again, this has been going on a year. People are still upset.
We just got the audit report from the IG last month. We were all waiting on that.
Okay, again, back to accountability. Who's accountable for this?
Accountable for what?
For all the mistakes that were uncovered
I
in the
don't
IG
know that
report.
there were any mistakes. There were certainly some recommendations regarding how to improve the bill preparation process, as well as how we might follow up and provide better customer awareness of that. We certainly, when we implemented the system, which was a major change, and went live with a new system, the whole billing format and the data and the information that is included in those bills is significantly different than what we ever did before. And yes, there were some, for example, meter reading dates that were inaccurate. We're fixing those. But that was just you got to remember that only 363 accounts out of over 100,000, that's less than 0.34% of our customers have experienced a problem. The rest of the customers, some 100,000, haven't had a problem.
I personally had a leak last year with a different company, and they relied on the old-fashioned way. They knocked on my door, said, "Your meter's running, you need to check this out." It saved me, it was a $250 bill. I could have went unnoticed for a long time with the system that you're talking about.
Well, it's unfortunate that we bill kind of after the fact. We don't pre-bill. So we are out there, and as soon as we know that we've got a high read, or we observe, as Craig suggested, if we go out and do a site visit, we see the meter reading, we're going to turn that meter off, and we're going to personally try to contact that customer about the problem that they have.
Should that have been done in this case?
It wasn't that it was continuously reading. It spiked up, it went, and then it quit. It didn't continue to run unabated.
In this case, didn't it run for 18 days, 24 hours a day?
But we didn't, I don't know when we didn't read it in the middle of that. We read it on the beginning and the end of that.
If the alarm system was on, wouldn't that have picked it up when somebody was in the neighborhood
I don't
reading?
believe the alarm would have gone off in that case because the meter wasn't really running.
It wasn't? I thought it was running for 18 days.
Remember it's recording the hourly readings. It only looks at the prior read and the second read, and it says, yes, there's a lot of consumption here when we get that back in, but I don't know that that set off an alarm. And we don't even drive by every site. We go to a particular data location in the community, and it gathers that data electronically. So we don't even go by every house like we used to when you walked.
The clerk's office told us that if someone reading the meters were in that neighborhood during that 18-day period, they would have picked this up on their meter alarm if it was on.
They may have gotten, as Craig described, those alarms, but only where it says 0 would we stop and try to correct that. What we need to do is when we get back in the office and we download that data that following day or that next day, that's when we need to respond to that, because the system will generate those exception reports for us to notify the customer. And we do that by phone, we do that by email, and if we can't ultimately do that, then we're going to send someone out there to try to take care of that. That's part of the customer care improvement process that I think we're looking at, to try to be, if you will, more proactive with this situation.
Now, this has been going on a year. Has anyone in your office apologized to this family for what they're going through?
I know that Craig has been in communications with the folks.
Right, I saw one of those communications from last weekend. It didn't look like an apology at all.
Well, I think it was trying to explain what we were looking at in the way of a possible adjustment.
Did you review that email before it went out?
I don't believe so.
Why not?
Because I don't have time to review everything that's going on.
Something this high profile that's caused all of these problems cost the taxpayers $300,000, and no one's stepping up, no one's taking accountability. Why not?
You know, I don't know the answers to those questions. I think you need to ask someone else.
But you're the boss.
I don't know the answer to what you're referring to.
Our Facebook page is lit up with people who are steaming mad about this. Some people are saying that you or someone on your staff should step down.
7 days a week, it's nonstop.
I don't have any comment on that.
And where did they go?
Okay. Where do we go from here with the other bills? What's the next step?
With the other, we are working through, as we just explained, all 363 bills to review those and communicate to the customer what we found and what our potential solution or option may be. Some of those we've already dealt with in the past.
Okay.
And they had bona fide leaks, we made the adjustment. If we made an error in a reading, i.e. they had double monthly consumption, we've addressed a lot of those.
Okay. And again, speaking to the accountability, some of these commissioners wanted to wipe the bill to zero. Ms. Gritman is here today. She's been here many, many meetings. She still hasn't heard anything from anybody as far as an apology or even, I feel bad for you. She's here. Do you have anything to say to her?
I apologize for that, and I'm sympathetic to the situation, and we're trying to come to some reasonable way to deal with that. But based upon the current ordinances and rules that we have to operate within, you know, I don't have anything better to offer other than what we suggested today to the board. And the board ultimately needs to advise us by amending the ordinance so it's clear as to how we can proceed and resolve the issue. I think that's where we're all trying to get.
So do you think her bill should be lowered?
I think she is due an adjustment on her bill because of an unanticipated, unexplainable situation that's occurred there. But I can't ignore the fact that the meter has shown that the water was delivered to the residents, and that's specifically the prima facie evidence that we have to rely upon per our existing ordinance.
Okay, thank you.